Hello, everybody. So this is why I'm doing a live stream. I've just heard that Tommy Robinson has been forcibly removed from Belmarsh prison and taken to Woodhill prison forcibly. He's been put in the punishment block at Woodhill. Obviously, I think that's going to be for his own safety. Whether he's going to go into general population at Woodhill, which is basically a death sentence for Tommy Robinson, because I believe that's the prison where he was attacked before, where he lost his teeth. I'm just in shock at the minute because obviously the system has lied to him again. They said that he would be safe within the system, and that seems like it's just not the case. It just stinks of an absolute stitch up, this, to me. Now, what they're trying to do to Tommy. I think they're really trying to push for somebody to do the unthinkable and possibly attack Tommy, injure him, or whether it's just to break him mentally and physically, because apparently he's got no privileges at this prison now. He's got no exercise routine. He's got no rights to see his relatives, apparently. It's just crazy. It's just a crazy time we're living in. And to me, all this has got to be coming from the top. It really has. This is top tier stuff. This is coming from the Justice Minister, who just happens to be of a certain demographic, a demographic that Tommy Robinson has been speaking out against. And, I think a lot of us are drawing conclusions and putting two and two together to, this is just an absolute stitch up by the state and the system. This is either to scare him into silence, which it won't do. We all know Tommy Robinson. He's not going to be scared into silence. He's the type of guy that won't back down, and he's going to go out fighting. There's no two doubts about that. He will go out fighting. But what we have to do now is we have to do what we did before. We have to get in contact with our MPs. We have to contact the prison with our concerns peacefully and respectfully, our concerns. Don't give them any ammunition to use or throw against you or anything like that. This has got to be done, firstly, through legal terms. Obviously, I think Tommy's legal team are going to have to get involved in this and try and sort it out, because basically the judge that sentenced him lied to him. And the governor of Belmarsh prison, absolute piece of work, that one, I think. These instructions have got to come from upon high, haven't they? And I'm talking 10 Downing Street high. There's no doubts about it in my mind. None whatsoever. This is an absolute, complete setup, in my opinion. And, we've all got to hope and pray that Tommy is all right now and that nothing happens to him, because that would be a complete and utter disaster if anything happened to Tommy Robinson. If that happens, all bets are off, and they really are playing with fire at the minute. And I don't think they realise it's like a child playing with Pandora's box. They just don't know what they're messing with, really. And I'm not advocating for violence or anything like that. I'm just an observer, observing about what would happen if anything did happen to Tommy Robinson. And it's scary times. He must be terrified, Tommy. Because, he's got PTSD. I know what that's like. And he's got to face that for 9 months. And it's just scary. Yeah, I think that's what we're all scared of, isn't it? Exactly. And that's something we don't want to happen, because if that happens, we're playing straight into their hands. It's like I was saying in my video that I put out yesterday, that what John Lennon said, that, the establishment will try to get you violent. They want to get you violent because when you get violent, they know how to deal with you. If you stay calm and peaceful and peacefully protest and use humour, then they don't know how to deal with you. That's why we've got to keep calm heads, clear minds, and help Tommy out. Rioting will not help Tommy out whatsoever. It'll just play straight into the establishment's hands at this point, and that is something we don't want to do. We don't want to give the enemy any more ammunition than they've already taken at this point. Peaceful protests, maybe, that Tommy's team will organise some peaceful protests outside the prisons and stuff like that. Get in touch with your MPs. That this is really the time now when the Reform Party should be stepping up to the plate and talking about this now and bringing this up in Parliament and saying, what is going on with our judiciary? What is going on? We've got criminals, serious criminals, being released from prison, and we've got a civil prisoner being held in a maximum security prison, and now he's being sent to one of the most toughest prisons in the country, where he was attacked before. You would think that they would use their common sense and a risk assessment and think, this prisoner has been attacked in this prison before. We're not going to send him to that prison, which makes it look even more deliberate now, doesn't it? When you think about it, because that will be on the record that this prisoner has been attacked here before. Now it looks deliberate, like they're deliberately sending him back to a prison where he's been attacked before, and that's what they want to happen. That's the only conclusion you can draw from that. They want harm to come to Tommy Robinson. That's what I think. And I've had a few people popping up on my videos, some other videos, stating that, well, the law's the law, he broke the law. And I always like to bring this up as well when people say that the law is the law. The law is only the law if it's moral. If the law is being misused to persecute people, then it has to change. We have to stand against it. And this is what Tommy Robinson was doing. This is why you need a free press. This is why you need investigative journalists that expose the corrupt judiciary. So there's an investigation. We have to shame people into doing investigations so that these institutions are held to account. At the minute, they're not being held to account, because if you speak out against them, they will find a way to put you in prison for being critical of them. And that's not what this country is about. We've never been like that in this country. That's the reason we had a civil war with Oliver Cromwell, was to get rid of tyrannical people. That's the reason the Magna Carta was created, was to hold the high authorities in our country to account, to tell them that they weren't above the law, that they were the same as everybody else. And that just doesn't seem to be the case anymore, does it? It seems that our institutions will use lawfare to silence any criticism against them or anybody trying to expose their corruption. That's the reason why Tommy Robinson is in prison right now. And I've watched the video from a guy called Politico, where he supposedly forensically analyzes Tommy's documentary, Silenced. He only analyzes one little bit of evidence and basically comes to the conclusion, after supposedly proving that one piece of evidence wrong, that then now makes the whole documentary null and void. What this person forgets to understand is that Tommy presented lots of evidence in that first libel case, evidence that was ignored by the judge, that wasn't allowed to be admitted into court, evidence that would have cleared Tommy Robinson of any libelous nature, because all he was doing was revealing the truth. That's all he was doing. But that's not allowed in this country anymore. We have a politicized judiciary. Just like most of our institutions now, the police are heavily politicized, the judiciary heavily politicized, the CPS heavily politicized. We're in very, very dangerous times right now. That's my phone going off. Just turn that off. What do you guys think? Got 6 people watching. Does anybody want to send a comment? What are your thoughts on this? Because I know what mine are. You know, I was thinking the other day, right? My granddad, he fought in World War Two. He was one of those soldiers that stormed the beaches of Normandy into those German machine guns. He survived by a miracle. He survived. If he hadn't survived, I wouldn't be here today. But he survived that. And I was saying to my partner, my girlfriend, I was saying, if I could go back, I could build a time machine. I would go back and say, don't bother, lads. Don't bother throwing yourself to those German machine guns. In about 70 years' time, the country's going to be thrown down the shitter anyway. Your sacrifice is going to be nothing because we're going to have a government in the future that just hands over the country to our enemies without a single shot being fired. That's how I feel right now. And I know a lot of other people feel like that as well. We're coming up to Remembrance Sunday, a time when we remember our fallen soldiers. And, they must be spinning in their graves right now about this, about what has happened to this country. Because everybody talks about the slippery slope fallacy, but we are on a slippery slope. We are nosediving in this country. We are not the same Great Britain we were during World War II. Our communities have been destroyed by the socialist Marxists. The nuclear family, our family units have been torn apart with identity politics, rubbish. We have madness in this country being portrayed as facts. It's just, I saw, yeah, I saw that rainbow flag on the poppy. It's like they've got a whole month. They've been given a whole month, Pride Month, to celebrate, and I don't care about that. By all means, you go and celebrate that. Be what you want to be. Own it. But why do they have to infiltrate everything? Absolutely everything. The red poppy, has been a symbol for remembrance for nearly 100 years now. Going on for 100 years, isn't it? But they just can't leave alone because they infiltrate every institution. Apparently, the British Legion now has some kind of DEI manager as well now that oversees, diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's just Marxism. I implore everybody, right? There's a video on YouTube. Go and watch it. There's a guy called Yuri Bezimov, and he explains how the KGB would infiltrate countries to try and destroy and destabilize society. And everything that guy talked about has come to pass. He describes in detail how the Marxists will destabilize society. And it's all about identity politics. It's about dividing people up into different boxes and then getting those individual parties to fight against each other, thus destroying the cohesion of the country. And that is what identity politics is. It's just something they use to destabilize our country. I'll look at some more of the comments. You know that I know that, mate, but there's a lot of low flashpoint nutters out there that would start trouble. Yeah, I agree. That is something we shouldn't be doing. We're just going to play straight into the establishment's hands if people get violent. That is something that we can do without. We need to lobby our politicians, the Reform Party. They're supposed to be in there to be our voice, apparently. It's about time they go off their arses. And I don't care if they've got something against Tommy Robinson. He's a citizen of this country and they should be speaking for him. They need to put their differences aside and speak up for the people of this country. It's not about egos anymore. It's not about, we don't like street protests and things like that. It's time to step up and fight for the people of this country. Because if they don't, then I don't see reform lasting after the next general election because people just won't vote for them. That's how I feel about Reform Party. All mentally orchestrated by the World Economic Forum. Exactly. It's everybody's been saying it's like it's fascism, but it's not really. It's the World Economic Forum is like it's like a cohesion of fascism and communism into one, because fascism is basically the most extreme form of communism you can get. A lot of people think that fascism comes from the right. It doesn't. It comes from the left. The people think that communists are the good guys. They're not. In Berlin, in the 1930s Berlin, the communists and the fascists weren't arguing over morality. They were arguing over power. They agreed with each other on many things. It was the fact that they both wanted to be the dominant force in Germany. That's why they were fighting. It wasn't because they hated fascism. It's because they didn't want fascism to be the dominant force. The communists wanted to be the dominant force in Germany. There's no morality about it. And the fact that we can have people parading about with the Soviet flag on our streets, because that's happened in my hometown on the May Day marches. I've had people walking down the street. Go and watch it on my Rumble channel. The link's going around on the banner. I went to the May Day parade, and there were masked up communists at the back with the Soviet flag, hammer and sickle. It's like you wouldn't dream it. If somebody was walking down the middle of the street with the swastika and the swastika armbands, there would be absolute outrage. People seem to forget that fascism and communism are just two sides of the same coin. Communism has killed more people. Is it over 100,000 people worldwide? It's killed either through murdering them, starvation, but yet it's tolerated. Something I don't understand. I really don't understand that, or I don't get why communism has to be the one that's tolerated. The only low we now have in the UK is the protection of a certain demographic. Two-tier Britain, right across the board. The government, our police, our judiciary, Orwell's 1984. Exactly. Totally agree with that. That is spot on. Anyway, back to Tommy Robinson. What are your thoughts on that about him being forcibly removed from Belmarsh prison to Woodhill prison? The prison where he was apparently he got attacked by, I think it was by Muslim gangs in there. I know he went to one prison and they were plotting to throw hot sugar in his face. They were going to like boil some sugar up in some water and throw it at him. That's a common weapon in prison, apparently. What they do to people. And anybody that says, I know I'm going to get people in the comment section after this live stream's uploaded coming in, and we know who they are as well. I get a few of the far right coming in, calling him a grifter, Tommy a grifter, and that sort of thing. And really, do you really think he would go through all this if all he was interested in was money? Do you really think he'd want to get sent to prison from his family and his children just so he can earn a few £100? Or is he really just standing for his principles? Because I think it's the latter. I think he's standing for his principles. He's stubborn and he refuses to back down. So all this nonsense that I see the real far right, the fringe far right, because they are a tiny minority and we know where they come from. And they try to call him a grifter, and that kind of thing. Look at all the holidays he's having abroad. But then they forget to mention the fact that he's had Osman warnings where the police have had to go around and say, you've got a serious threat to your life. And they wonder why he lives the majority of his life abroad and that he has to use a pseudonym of Tommy Robinson, even though everybody knows his real name. And basically, his whole family has to be in hiding to protect them from the people that want to do harm to him. I'm so angry about this. Tommy shouldn't be put in prison in the first place, exactly, let alone being moved to Woodhill where he has had his teeth knocked out. Something needs to be done about this. And it will be. I think this is going to be one for Tommy's legal team to get into court or something and ask why this judge said in the first place when he was sentenced that he was to be put in Belmarsh prison and he was to be kept in safety. These prison wardens have a duty of care. And the only way we keep Tommy safe is to keep talking about it, is to put him in the public eye. Because if he's in the public eye, he's in the public interest, then they can't do anything to him. Can they? Does anybody else want to post a comment? Is anything else anybody wants to say? Because I don't want to do a really long stream. I just wanted to air my opinion about what happened to Tommy, because I was looking down his admin to see how he was, to see if there were any updates, and then obviously I found this again, and then I watched Maya Tusi's live stream where he went into more detail about what was going on, and I was just shocked. But I think most of us knew in the back of our minds that something like this was going to happen, because this was the plan from the outset, wasn't it? Really. I think because of the backlash that the warden at Belmarsh prison got, she passed the buck and says, we don't really want him in our prison. Can you move him, please? And then they moved him to Woodhill. I think that's what's happened, to be honest with you. It's been a massive stitch up since the day that he got arrested for, when the police asked him to turn himself in that day. This was always on the cards, because then we heard that his court date had been moved to another court, which was right next to Belmarsh. Tommy knew what was coming, didn't he? Anyway, no more. That's all I've got to say on this. I'm not going to keep talking for the sake of talking. I just wanted to give my 2 pence worth about what's going on. I'm sure all of our hearts and minds are with Tommy, and we hope he stays strong, and we hope he's all right. Right, I'm going to end it here, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for posting your comments. This is Vindicator, signing off.